Warning. The following video contains strong language that some viewers may find offensive or disturbing.
A man once said, if you want a good story, just ask any random person if there was ever an event in their life they cannot explain. Someone almost always has one weird thing that has happened to them. So Reddit. Regardless of whatever you believe about the world. What's your story? I was measuring ingredients for a cake in my apartment when I dropped my blue plastic 1/2C measuring cup. I heard it go talk as it hit the ground once and then no other sound afterwards. I immediately looked all around for it, but it had vanished. By the end of my search I had removed all the drawers, moved the appliances, and checked inside, under, behind everything in the kitchen and surrounding areas. I've moved 3 times since then and never found it. I hope the eldritch horrors the next plane over are enjoying my half-cup skeptical smiley face. Had an accident when I fell asleep driving. I went off the road when I reached a T. Headed straight into a wooded area going about 50 miles per hour. But ran into a telephone pole's guy wire, heavy cable driven into the ground at a 45-degree angle to the pole. Well, that cable was a godsend because it absorbed most of my kinetic energy and significantly slowed me down. To give you an idea of how much energy it absorbed, it cut into the front end of my car about 2 feet, slicing the battery in half in the process. It also pivoted me around 90 degrees, so I was sideways when I went down a hill into the woods. Rolled the car about 3 times and ended up on the roof. Completely missed all of the trees. I extracted myself from the crash, gathered my stuff and walked away from the accident completely unharmed, was wearing my seatbelt. I walked home, which was about 2 miles. It was 2 a.m. and pre-cell phones. After I got home I noticed about midway on my right thigh, a perfect 1-inch square of fabric was gone from my khaki pants. I'm talking about a perfect square. The edges were so clean, like it was carefully carved out with a scalpel. No cuts or scrapes on the skin of my thigh. It was surreal and creeped me out. I believe that after I die, I will be presented with this 1-inch piece of khaki fabric and be told, it wasn't your time. When I went back to the scene the next day, the telephone pole guy wire had snapped. And the pole, while still standing, had been pulled so hard that where it went into the ground, the hole was elongated about 6 inches before it sprung back. No sign of the square of fabric. Edit, changed inertia to kinetic energy. I clearly remember that when I was younger my brother and mother said our apartment was invaded when we weren't home. I even remember the posters around town showing pictures of the guys caught on camera. They had 2x4s in case anyone was inside. Funny enough, I've reminded them both of this occasion and they say that they never said that. And our home was never burglarized. Think about it every once in a while but just dismiss it as a dream that I must have had when I was younger. Once on my birthday I was in the kitchen and was reading some schedule on the fridge when all of a sudden I heard the birthday song being whistled really nearby. Like almost right behind me and very close to my right ear. I mindlessly began to hum along. Then it hit me. I was all alone at home and I had no fucking clue where, who, or what it came from even to this day. I ran out of my house and didn't come back for the rest of the day. Must have been 5th grade when I was sitting on the couch watching TV with my dad. As 10 p.m. rolled around my dad fell asleep in his lazy boy. As is the nature of fathers. With my dad asleep, I figured I would watch a little more TV before I turned in. While sitting there I heard, and I remember this so vividly, a clown's laugh coming from the room behind me. I was petrified, but eventually mustered the courage to poke my dad awake and tell him what happened. I don't blame the guy for shrugging it off as my imagination. But here I am 10 years later and I still firmly believe my ears were not playing tricks on me that night. I regularly have dreams of my cat calling my name. Every time I wake up from one of these dreams she is looking at me. Before anything creepy or profound could happen, the little shits start yowling for wet food. When I was young, 6 to 8. Not really sure. My parents had this apartment building they rent out near our house and one of the tenants were a couple. The wife's parents were also our neighbors and they lived a block away from us. I used to play with the wife's younger brother and would hang out at the couple's apartment to play. It was around the couple's son's birthday and I think it was his first because I remember they were making a big deal about it and talking about it for weeks. They were gonna hold it at the wife's parents' house. WHICJ wasn't that far from home, so I asked my parents if I could go. I remember them indirectly saying no and I guess in a joking, teasing kind of way told me they were gonna serve ducks instead of chicken. I hated ducks as a kid. I remember clearly being really bummed out about it for days. A few days after the party, I was hanging out at the apartment and they were gushing about the party pictures that just got developed, film ones, and I was like, I wish I was there. Then the wife was like, what do you mean? You were. Look, here you are. And showed me the pictures and I was there. I'm sure I'm not remembering it wrong because it has been bothering me all this time. I remember asking my aunt if I went and she even said no, but my friend, the younger brother, told me I was there and we even played. I just don't remember attending that party at all. I actually asked my aunt about this recently and she doesn't remember. It was just weird. Edit, spelling and details. I was homesick sometime during HS. 11th or 12th grade. I was sitting in my computer chair playing Skyrim when my dog, who was usually contempt by himself and never one for affection, came into my room and laid down staring out my door. Me being alone and this not being his normal course of action unnerved me a bit, so I closed my door and went back to playing. Not 3 minutes later I hear the voice of my mother calling my name. Clear as day, she's a school teacher. So she would have been at work. Shitting myself, I tried to be as quiet as possible and lower my TV all the way down to make sure I didn't attract whatever I heard and could hear more clearly. Only to hear the bedroom door upstairs slam shut. Sat in my room and notepad all day long in silence until my mom came home. I asked her if she was home earlier and denied it. One of the scariest moments of my life. I'm gonna make this as short as possible, but I was supposed to be flying out to Thailand from Australia. I was also kind of seeing this guy who was flying into Melbourne the same day I was leaving. He asked if I wanted to visit him and spend Xmas with him, but I was pretty set on going to Thailand for Xmas. Night before I was supposed to leave I had the worst dream. I was standing on the beach and these huge waves just started coming for me. Ended up swallowing me and taking me away. I woke up in the worst sweat ever. Completely freaked me out. Never, ever had such a vivid dream. I can't even explain how real it felt. Anyway, I spoke to the guy the next morning and impulsively changed my ticket to go see him in Melbourne instead. The dream just gave me the creeps that bad. Turns out the Boxing Day tsunami hit right where I would have been staying. Probably a weird coincidence, but makes me think. Oh, and I am married to that guy now. My friend and I were laying on a trampoline looking up at the sky, watching the birds fly. Then I swear I saw a flying bunny. I asked her if she saw it too and she did. It was probably a predator-type bird carrying a bunny, but for the longest time I swore it was a flying bunny. Almost exactly a year ago, I was at a sports bar in the town I'd lived in for like 6 months. Cheering on the Sharks halfway across the country from San Jose. I was seemingly the only person watching, and the only person in a Sharks jersey. The bar was U-shaped. And at one point I looked across to the other side at a guy who was ordering a beer. We caught eyes. He lifted his beer, mouthed "Go Sharks," and returned to his table near the back where he was sitting with a few other guys. By the end of the game, he had come to sit next to me and we were sharing French fries. It turns out he's from my hometown, not San Jose, which makes it crazier, and had moved to our middle-of-nowhere desert town under weirdly similar circumstances to my own on a weirdly similar timeline. Also turns out his younger brother and I have the same birthday and were born in the same hospital. He was 4 at the time. So he literally remembers being in the hospital while I was being born. He didn't go to my undergrad, but he visited frequently, party school, and was in the same frat my roommates and I were closest with. We have friends of friends in common, but never crossed paths. We must have just barely missed each other so many times in life. But didn't find each other till we were ready. It's insane. Sharks won that night and we've been together since. Edit, because it's not clear and seems to matter. I am a woman. Was sitting in my room reading a book. Facing my open door. Saw my brother walk past into his bedroom next to mine. Heard him close the door. 30 seconds later, my dad comes up to my room. Ashen-faced. Where's your brother? He asks me. In his room. I answer without hesitation. No, he's not. My dad continues to look absolutely horrified. Your brother's not home. We check his room. It's empty. We both saw the same whatever it was walk into my brother's room. Still gives me goosebumps. Edit, for everyone asking. My brother was out with friends. He didn't come home for several hours. It was a second story with a straight drop down and hard to open windows. So no chance of a prank or window exit. We didn't tell my brother until we moved to a new house. Edit 2, my dad got a better look at the thing than I did. He asked where my brother was so that I would have to independently confirm that I'd seen someone. That the someone looked like my brother. And that it had entered my brother's room. He's clever that way. There was one time me and my parents were house sitting for the neighbors feeding their dog and stuff. One time while we were there I was chilling in the living room and saw someone go up the stairs. I assumed it was my dad because he had a pair of black dress shoes on that was similar to the ones my dad wore to work. A minute later I go into the kitchen and my dad is in the room with my mom taking and moreover he is wearing sandals. I have no idea who it was I saw because there was 100% no one else supposed to be in the house at that time. Nothing was stolen when the neighbors got back so I doubt it was someone who broke in. A friend piped up in my dream remotely, like 30 kilometers away, and I yelled at him to go away. Later that day he rang the house phone, I'm old, and told me that he'd woken me from my dream. The words I'd used and exactly what I'd been dreaming. Couldn't ever explain that. For watching. If you liked the video give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and hit the notification button. See you next time.